One of the most interesting episodes that I ever had as a reporter was being in a courtroom, and the very first time that I ever saw the movie Taxi Driver was in a courtroom, and in the courtroom with me was John W. Hinckley, the young man who was accused of trying to assassinate the President of the United States. Hinckley was obsessed with the movie Taxi Driver, it turns out. He was obsessed with the one character in the movie. One of the co-stars was Jodie Foster, a very young Jodie Foster playing a teenage prostitute. And he was infatuated with her to the point of delusion, and he figured that he wanted her to fall in love with him. And he said the only way that Jodie Foster was going to fall in love with him is if he were to do something spectacular, and in his mind, in his paranoid, schizophrenic mind, that would be by killing Ronald Reagan, who had just been elected President of the United States. So in watching the movie, it was bizarre because I'm watching the movie, and so is John Hinckley, but I'm also watching John Hinckley watch the movie. He was a bizarre guy, and I remember it was chilling to watch him watch this because he was affectless. He didn't register any emotion. He had a kind of a jowly kind of scowl. And all during his trial, he hardly ever reacted or talked to his attorney. It was as if he wasn't there. Hinckley was found not guilty by reason of insanity on, I think, all 13 counts. And he has been in St. Elizabeth's mental hospital here in Washington, D.C. ever since then. The movie Taxi Driver was actually based in part on another attempted assassination. It was the attempted assassination by a man named Arthur Bremer on George Corley-Wallace, who was then the former governor of Alabama, running for president in 1972. Bremer had kept a lot of diaries which revealed this kind of, again, paranoid fascination with wanting to kill a major political figure. The movie itself, the character Travis Bickle, which was played by a very young Robert De Niro, also kept diaries, also said that he was going to achieve greatness by assassinating a political figure, so you saw that parallel. Years later, George Wallace, still in a wheelchair, mind you, was running for his third and final term as governor of Alabama, which he ultimately won. I flew down to Alabama to interview him for my paper, the New York Daily News, and I remember talking to him about politics, et cetera, et cetera. But the real question I wanted to ask him was what his opinion was of what happened during the Reagan assassination attempt and what he thought should happen to John W. Hinckley. And there he is, confined in his wheelchair, and you could tell he almost wanted to jump out of that wheelchair if he could, because he ranted almost. He said what happened to the president was just a disgrace. It should never have happened. And that young man, John W. Hinckley, he said he should be put under the strongest jailhouse in the United States, and they should just throw away the key. There's been a lot of talk about Hinckley. Perhaps maybe he's been rehabilitated. I've read things saying that he's really come along and that perhaps he should be released. Well, I know that, whenever I think about that, I remember what he looked like in the courtroom, and I'll never forget this look of a guy who I just didn't want to be in the same room with. And when I think about, in just the recent past, this kind of almost orgy or this epidemic of violence, frenzied violence with guns, the idea of an insanity defense that ultimately will set you free is not something that I'm particularly happy with.